MMA was supposed to be the antidote to pro wrestling. Real fights, real results, no scripts. But the truth? From the earliest UFC tournaments to Pride in Japan, to shady modern betting scandals, MMA has never been completely clean. Today, we're diving into the dirtiest corners of the sport. Fights that were obviously fixed, bouts that fans still debate to this day, and cases where the mob itself was involved. These are the most suspicious fights in MMA history. Mark Coleman, the Hammer, the godfather of ground and pound, a UFC Hall of Famer, but in Pride 5, 1999, he became the face of MMA's first undeniable fix. Coleman was broke. He lost 3 in a row, couldn't pay his bills, and Pride offered him cash to do one job: lose to Nobuhiko Takeda. Takeda was a Japanese pro wrestler with zero chance against a legit fighter, but Pride needed a hero for the home crowd. So what happens? Coleman dives into guard like he's never wrestled before, ignores open shots, and taps to a heel hook Takeda barely cranked. The Japanese fans roared, Pride got their moment, and MMA purists cringed. This fight didn't just stain Coleman, it stained Pride itself, because once you fix one fight, fans start questioning everything. Was Fedor's run pure? Was Vanderlei's dominance real? Fixing one fight cast a shadow over the entire promotion.
They came into the office and sat me down and, "Oh, Mr. Coleman, we want you to fight Takada's son, and we will pay you $300,000. And I said, "Well, what?" I said, "Yeah, what's the catch?" And then they said, "Oh, but you must lose."
UFC 6, 1995, the Wild West days. Oleg Taktarov, the Russian Bear, versus Anthony Macias. The fight lasts 9 seconds. Macias runs straight into a guillotine, taps instantly, and the crowd's confused. Why? Because it was fixed. Macias and Taktarov shared a manager, Buddy Albin. Albin wanted Oleg to save energy for the finals against Tank Abbott, so he ordered Macias to throw the fight. This fight showed how dirty tournament formats could be. Managers had multiple fighters in the same bracket, making backroom deals. Fans thought they were watching Warrior tournaments, but sometimes it was just stage-managed theater.
They both have the same promoter, Buddy Albin. And Albin has chosen to go in Taktarov's corner for this particular fight.
This one might be the most blatant rig outside of a dive. Guy Mezger was beating Kazushi Sakuraba in Pride's 2000 Grand Prix. Time expires, Mezger expects to win, but suddenly, the fight is declared a draw. The officials announce an extra round out of nowhere. Ken Shamrock, Mezger's coach, loses his mind, orders Mezger to walk out. Pride gives the win to Sakuraba by forfeit. Why? Because Pride needed Sakuraba, their Japanese ace, to keep advancing. Mezger was a pawn in the storyline. This moment is legendary because it showed Pride wasn't even pretending to hide it. They literally changed the outcome mid-event. It was pro wrestling masquerading as MMA, and fans were left wondering how many other fights were scripted behind the curtain.
I walked right into the ring, right up to the ref, and I said,
Took that yellow card out.
because I know you know. The referee knew too, and I said, I know you know. "Oh, don't speak English." I said, "You speak English."
That's convenient.
Right.
Rafael Torre's story is one of the most bizarre in MMA. Torre claimed to be 14-0,
I was 14-0 before I retired.
a BJJ black belt, and convinced promoters he was a killer. In reality, he'd never fought anyone. When he finally got in a King of the Cage bout, he won with one of the worst knee bar attempts in history. Years later, it was exposed as a fix. But it gets darker. Torre wasn't even his real name. He was Ralph Bartel. He ended up convicted of murder. Torre's fake fight was just the tip of the iceberg. It proved that shitty matchmaking, fake records, and phantom gyms weren't just rare. They were part of MMA's DNA in the regional scene.
This is how full of shit this guy was. This guy had a friend drop him off in the woods because he said he was going to a kumite karate contest, like a big karate competition, but it was no rules and it was secretive. So he dropped him off in the woods. So he leaves, goes out into the woods. The guy comes back the next day. He's got a trophy, no duffel bag. So he brought a fucking trophy with him, and then he came out of the woods like, "Yeah, I won. I fucked everybody up."
If you want comedy, look no further than Alexander Emelianenko versus Eddie Bankston. Alexander flicks a jab that barely grazes him, and Bankston falls like he got sniped. He collapses, stays down, fight over. Even Alexander looks confused. This was less a fix and more a parody of one. This fight became a meme for how bad fixes can look. MMA fans joke about flops in soccer, but Bankston might have taken the crown for worst acting in combat sports.
В конце концов, Эдди, как бы он сказал, что он постарается провести бой, он же...
Fast forward to modern UFC, 2015. Taehyun Bang versus Leo Kuntz. The Korean Mafia allegedly offered Bang $100,000 to throw the fight. The odds swung so drastically that UFC officials noticed and warned both fighters.
Talk to me, and they're basically like, hey, listen, there's a big odds swing that came in, and we just want you to know that, you know, you just go out there and do your best and make sure that you're fighting as hard as you can. You know, and I had no idea what was going on because I'm not a sports bettor or any of that type of shit. So, but apparently when the odds, someone put in $1 million bet on me to win, so the odds swung in my favor like 700 points or something in 1 minute. Because I guess the odds are based upon like how the bets come in. Like,
Bang ends up winning by split decision anyway, and later went to prison. He even got death threats from the mob for screwing up the fix. This was the first time a UFC fighter was actually jailed over a fix. It highlighted how vulnerable the sport still is, because with gambling money involved, the temptation never goes away.
You get caught doing that shit. And he didn't even do it. He didn't do it. He took the money, but didn't fix the fight. And he got 10 months in jail. So, listen, you get suspended for a year for drugs, or you get suspended for 2 years, you go to fucking jail for doing this shit. So, hopefully that's a lesson learned for everybody.
Now let's go through some other suspected fights. Bob Sapp fights. Sapp went from a monster to a tomato can overnight. Was he throwing fights for easy checks in Japan? Ken Shamrock versus Kimbo Slice. Shamrock dominates early, gets full mount, then magically loses to a sloppy punch. Fans called BS. Kimbo Slice versus Seth Petrozelli. Petrozelli admitted post-fight he was paid to keep it standing. That fueled rumors Elite XC pressured him for a specific outcome. Conor McGregor versus Eddie Alvarez. Not a fix, but Alvarez's bizarrely passive performance sparked conspiracy theories. These fights may not be confirmed fixes, but they're still debated in forums to this day. When a fight looks weird, fans will always ask, was it skill or something shady?
The idiot Gary Shaw actually does an interview with the LA Times, okay? And he says that, we didn't do anything wrong. There's nothing wrong with paying a guy to stand up. We got no problem doing that. Yes, you scumbag, there is a problem with that. Think about this. Mandalay Bay and the Venetian both had betting on this. You, the consumer, the mixed martial arts fan, could go in and bet on this fight, okay? Now, anybody that's going to bet on this fight is going to think, well, if Seth Petrozelli can get him to the ground, the fight's over. So I'm going to bet, take a chance that Seth's going to get him down and submit him. But you don't know the scumbag promoters behind the scenes went in and paid him to not go to the ground. They paid him to stand up. You know why? Because they thought that Kimbo Slice was going to viciously knock him out. That's fucking illegal.
MMA is brutal, chaotic, and unpredictable, but as we've seen, it's also a sport where money talks.
Is this the Money Channel? Who the is this shit?
From Coleman's dive in Pride to Taehyung Bang's failed bribe, the history of MMA is littered with fixed fights, shady matchmaking, and suspicious outcomes. Most fights are real, most fighters are warriors, but when money's on the line, sometimes the cage becomes a stage. Which one was the most blatant? Or if I missed any, let me know in the comments.
That's fucking illegal.